Welcome to the Cake Therapy Podcast, a slice of joy and healing with your host, Dr. Altreisha Foster. This is a heartwarming and uplifting space that celebrates the transformative power of baking therapy. The conversations will be a delightful blend of inspirational stories, expert insights, and practical baking tips. Each episode will take listeners on a journey of self-discovery, emotional healing, and connection through the therapeutic art of baking. There's something here for everyone, so lock in and let's get into it.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Cake Therapy Podcast with me, your host, Altreisha Foster. Today, we're joined by Miss Natasha Givens. I'm calling this series the Minneapolis, Minnesota takeover because this season we've spoken to a lot of people from the Twin Cities. This season we're talking to a lot of guests from the Twin Cities, and I'm extremely excited to have Natasha on the show with us. For our listeners and subscribers, thank you for joining us. And if you're listening and you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and subscribe. Follow us on TikTok and YouTube. We are also, we have our media up on YouTube, and you can find that podcast there. So thank you again for the ongoing support. Leave us a message, comment, let us know how you're feeling, how you're liking our guests, and you know what the podcast has been doing for you. So as usual, we are hoping to bring you a slice of joy and healing through our conversations, and to really anchor our podcast and remind everyone that we just don't talk about baking here. We talk about art forms that people use as their extended source of support. So today we are speaking with Natasha Givens. She is extremely innovative. She's the visionary behind Cream Cakery, also known as Natty Kakes. She's a one-woman show, just like at Sugar Spoon Desserts, but she's a one-woman powerhouse in the world of gourmet edibles. She's blending her background in art, baking, and cannabis into delectable masterpieces. And if you follow her on Instagram, you can see the artistic side of her resonating in her pieces, as well as, she talks about her love for edibles in there. So before she launched Cream Cakery, she spent over a decade in corporate world. Corporate America always gets us in first. So she spent over a decade there, where she was the art director and designer of a particular organization. But, as she says in her story, that in the corporate world, it's hard as a Black woman just navigating the space. And she has fallen in love with edibles, and she's not only redefining what's possible in cannabis edibles, but she's also passionate. She's also a passionate advocate for the destigmatization of cannabis use and empowering women of color in the industry. She is extremely committed to her craft. Her community shines through in every cake and cookie she creates. So we'll be delving in her inspiring journey from corporate grinding to making these brilliant and meaningful and impactful, delectable delights. So I'm excited to talk to Natasha today. So welcome, Natasha, to the show. All right. Hi, Natasha. Welcome to the Cake Therapy Podcast. How are you doing today?
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well. I've waited a while to have this conversation. When I started to think about the Cake Therapy Podcast, I was like, oh my God, I have to bring everybody I know on. I want to talk to everybody to kind of understand their background and their why as they're opening these businesses, right?
Yeah.
And mostly there are a lot of women who are doing cakery, any type of art form to really center themselves. Mm-hmm. And you were one of my people on my list. So I'm really excited that Stephanie finally got you in here.
Thank you.
So welcome.
Thank you.
I know. So at the top of the conversation, I was telling our listeners that your specialty is in edibles, but you make amazing cakes because you do have an art background. So I want to, do a mental health check-in, see how excited you are to be on the podcast, see what's going on around you, and to even check in on family. What's good?
Of course. So my life right now is really hectic. I have a 4-year-old that I am home with every day.
Mm-hmm.
So while hubby's at the office and everybody's at school, it's me and my 4-year-old. So although it is lovely to be at home, especially coming from a corporate background, this era of my life is blessed, but also chaotic.
I've had a pretty chaotic summer too, because this summer I decided not to enroll my kids in anything because they've had such a hectic school year. But man, am I sad about that? I should have gotten their asses out.
You ready for them to go back?
I am too ready for them to go back to school.
Yeah.
So you briefly mentioned about your corporate background, but I want to know about you, Natasha, your upbringing. And how did your early life, your family environment influence the path you took into corporate?
Sure. So my family is originally from Trinidad and Tobago, both my parents. My dad is by way of India, and my mom is kind of like an indigenous mix of Trinidad. So when they migrated to the United States, they moved to Brooklyn. Naturally, that's where a lot of Caribbean come from. They lived in Bed-Stuy for a little and then moved to the Baltimore area before having me. And so I was the only girl. I was the middle girl of a very traditional Caribbean family. Yeah. You know what that means. So they expected only the highest of things for me and all those things. So as I was growing up, my older brother, who is now a cosmetic surgeon, was like, wow, like I had this person in front of me that was doing like amazing schoolwork, all these things. And I was the artist, the writer, played the violin. I was heavy, always leaning into art. I remember I had to do like an English class where I had to like demonstrate, but also teach people. And I chose to teach people how to do cake decorating. So like I went into class, I brought a little cake, took my piping bags and started teaching them different techniques of how to pipe at the time in the 90s, like basket weave and all the basic kind of piping techniques. I never thought that I'd go into cake design. Always wanted to be a designer. So immediately after high school, I ended up actually having my first daughter at the age of 19. So I took kind of like a sidetrack to like the path that I was on. Kind of got wrapped up in just that young adult kind of mess, you know what I mean? Like, had a baby, my boyfriend at the time, who we were in a relationship, it just was toxic and young adult type stuff. It really derailed me from what I was wanting to do with my life and the path. So I took that detour for probably like 5 years before going back to school to finish design. Immediately after finishing up my design and communication degree, I got a job right away at a publication house and really like climbed fast in corporate America, despite being a woman of color, because talent just spoke for itself. I am so passionate about design still to this very day. I will leave everything and go work in Manhattan somewhere for a design company if I could. Super passionate. But while I was in that, corporate America is a rat race. And then you do start to see the things like people around you are getting paid more than you, but they're not at your level. Things like having to fight for titles over years. It was too much. I started supplementing my income at the time with caking and also my creativity, because I was like boxed in. I always had a love for cake. I will live off of cake. My friend was having a baby shower. They're like, let's try and make a cake. I was like, okay, fine. It's going to be less expensive if I make it. First three-tiered cake I made was for one of my best friend's baby shower. And I had no idea what I was doing, but it came out gorgeous. and it tastes even better. And people at the party were like, you need to do this. You really need to do this. And I kept doing it. I kept doing it through that career.
At what point of all of this did you realize that you were passionate about cake, that you were going to, start doing it? Because first you talk about teaching people in school, from this kit, and then making this baby shower cake. When did it hit you that, man, I'm passionate about this art form also?
I knew at that moment, at that first tiered cake, it was like something went off in me.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, it fulfilled me. It gave me so much joy, not only from making something from nothing, but the part that filled me so much and still to this day fills me so much is the reaction.
Yeah.
When they see it and when they taste it. Like knowing people are consuming your art is the most amazing feeling, honestly.
Yeah. No, I do get it. I've had like many conversations on here with women and men who are kind of juggling, right? Have this corporate lifestyle, and then they're baking. This is their hobby. How did you manage, to balance this, your corporate career with your growing interest in baking as you were doing it in the early years?
At the time, so I think I started back in 2010. Besides the corporate world kind of triggering me into doing that for creative outlet, I also was going through like a really bad breakup. And I was a single mom, and it kept me out of that. You know what I mean? Baking kept me out of my mind as much. And it sustained me in corporate America for maybe 2 years, honestly, before I got burnt out because I wasn't pricing accordingly.
Yeah.
Because I was working full time also, I just didn't have the capacity. So around 2013, because of work, life, things like that, and I put it on the back burner. I didn't come back to it until 2019. By that time, I had met my husband. He very much believed in my dream, and I started doing it with my last pregnancy. I started baking again during my last pregnancy with my son.
Yeah.
And it's re-sparked everything in me. But because of this era of my life I'm in, I was able to like lean into it as like in a real healthy and beautiful way that made everything come alive at that point. Like I knew then that like, okay, I circled back to one of the talents that I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Like what resonates with me is like you finding your passion and your purpose in baking again as you were pregnant. Because I too found baking when I was pregnant with my second child.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. I took a cookie class when I was pregnant with her, and that's when all hell broke loose.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, all hell broke loose from there. I just couldn't stop baking. So in those moments, like for me, it's found myself, right? When I was pregnant with my daughter and I was baking, then the trauma that happened to me as a child started coming back.
Ooh.
So I started to bake through that stuff, and I just stayed in the kitchen. But what is it for you that kept you going as you were pregnant? Is it passion, purpose? What was it that kept you going as you were pregnant, and why?
It felt like I was revisiting an old friend, and it was exciting to see them. It was exciting to participate, and it tapped another creativity for me. Because I wasn't like boxed in with like a full-time job, I was still very much healing from my my work life and my work experience. It felt like therapy. It felt like therapy, yeah. So like literally when I first found out about your podcast, I was like, oh wow, because caking is therapy.
Yeah. Anybody
that bakes knows, like, I don't know what it is, but during that process of like putting together a cake, being inspired in those moments, but also like working through whatever it is at the time you're going through and seeing this beautiful thing come out that people can enjoy was like, again, like really the most fulfilling for me. And I think in my mind, I was really wanting to put creative energy into that baby. I wanted him to be a creator and an artist and all these things that men don't openly get to be sometimes.
Yes.
And it worked because now he is.
Well, that's that's good stuff. That's good stuff. You know, so many of us like live in fear of leaving these 9-to-5 jobs, like that gives them this consistent cash, dollar bills, right? So someone like myself, I'm tethering on the edge of like this completely just walking away from it all and just going into bakery.
Yeah.
What do you say to a woman like me who's just tethering on the edge and saying, oh my God, I can't leave all these degrees behind and walk away like you did? Like, what is it that made you decide I'm going to do this and forget about that?
My husband, honestly, and the support group that I had around me, like the support system that I had around me, really allowed me to like press into it. If I didn't have that, honestly, I wouldn't have done it. I still, every day as an entrepreneur, wake up and think, I need to go get a job. I need to go get a job. I need a 401k. God damn. Yeah. So I'm not even going to lie. I'm not even going to lie around the struggle of like, I mean, sometimes you're flooded with, you know, you think everybody's going to need cakes. Like, but the end of time, people are going to need cakes.
Yeah.
But with the economy, you know how that is. And so, honestly, I don't push women to like make that leap or push anybody to make that leap. I say, weigh out what those are. If I, at any point, if my husband, was like, you need to go back to work. I'm
like, now niggas, I need my money. With
my baby going into school too, and at 5, like, I think about that. Like, will I press into my bakery more, or will I? You know, I struggle. I have to say honestly, right at this very moment, I struggle. With that because of the economy and the state that we're kind of in.
It really does ebbs and flows. Like there are moments where you're just doing like extremely well. And I think that's what put the fear of God inside of me. Like I tell people all the time, Natasha, like I was poor and broke before and I don't want to be poor and broke no more. So I'm just sitting. I have one foot in the right and one foot in the
biggest fear. I'm like, I can never be broke again.
No, I can't. I'm allergic to that stuff. So I'm just sitting here. No, for real. I'm just like, Lord, help me in that moment.
Yes.
So I was reading, Stephanie and I were talking yesterday as we were preparing for our conversation. And she sent me over the notes and she said that you watch Bon Appetit. And that sparked your interest in cannabis infused baking. And I'm like tapping into you. Did she say Bon Appetit? And she's like, no. And I went to Google, girl. And I was like, there is such a thing.
Yes.
So tell us.
Yes. It even took me to
a little bit more.
It took me to a next level.
Yeah.
So I started. I mean, I've always been an advocate of marijuana. I mean, obviously, I dabbled when I was a teenager, like most people. Coming up, I really started to see like the benefits of the plant. During like my corporate years, I definitely didn't, because I was always in some kind of work mode. But as I got out of corporate America and was really trying to heal from that experience, from my workplace trauma, I started using cannabis. For my anxiety, for PTSD, and I just was literally obsessed with like the plant, like the magic of this plant. And being Caribbean, like I always believed in everything is made here. God has everything already here for us, medicines, all that. So I leaned into it, started looking and learning and researching the plant itself, fell in love with it, absolutely fell in love with the plant, and started learning about extraction. I stumbled upon the show Bon Appetit, like you said, which is, it used to be on Vice, I believe, the channel, and they brought in all these chefs and pastry chefs and bakers, and they would infuse their foods with tinctures or, butters and oils. And I was fascinated. I was absolutely captivated by the culture, the plant, the medicine, and I started to dabble. It took me months to eventually create my own kind of signature butters and oils and that was back in 2018. And I would say before Minnesota was legalized, I knew that I wanted to be in the forefront of that industry in a niche way that spoke to me. And I just literally started one day. I worried what people would think about me as a mom, as a wife, as a professional. What is she doing? What is she doing?
I know. Because that's what I wanted to know, because there's such a stigma, right? And I'm like, did you face any of that kind of backlash when you first started incorporating THC in your desserts or your baked goods?
Yes. My parents honestly didn't know about it for like a year or two. But I'm like, I'm in my 40s. I'm fine. I'll be all right. And I leaned into it because I hated that stigma. So I leaned in even more because I hated that stigma. I wanted people to know, like, women, mothers, this is medicine. Like, and the only way to educate people, I'm sorry, to take away that stigma is to educate people around it and around the plant. So that was always my intention and goal. So immediately when I started openly advertising and telling people, people were very leery, but my product absolutely speaks for itself. And as legalization became, on the forefront, through legalization, all of those things, it just kept on building. And women saw me as just being fearless in the sense that I'm okay if whatever your idea of what I'm doing is. Because I know that it's magic. I know that it's helping people. I have clients who are firefighters. During the George Floyd time, I had civil servants who were out there every night battling fires, arresting people. You know what I mean? Like, really trauma in their lives that they were experiencing in their profession. Some of my most loyal customers that help, they still to this day. I get chill. I just got goosebumps thinking about it because they still use my products. They still come to me and tell me how I helped them through a really dark time. I have an older woman who comes and buys edibles because her mom just passed. She's having a hard time processing that. So the lives that I touch outside of just cakes, it just has been built upon. And it fills my heart. Honestly, just speaking about it makes me want to tear up because not only has it made a way for me, but has empowered so many other women in their lives without even saying it. So, you speak of like empowerment, and you speak of what you do with such passion. And in some ways, I get you feel, and you know that this work is purpose driven for you. How do you see Natasha do you see Natasha as a figurehead in the destigmatization of cannabis use in not only Minnesota, but across the US and across the world? What is your vision for that? Repeat the actual question.
I was saying that if you see yourself as a figurehead in destigmatization of cannabis.
I do. I really want to further push. There are so many Black and brown women currently in the market nationally that are doing amazing work for destigmatization, incarcerated mothers. So many women out there doing it. I hope that in Minnesota, I can maintain my position in it. Honestly, I've had a few articles written about my infused side. When I say my infused side, my edible brand, which is Natty Kakes Artisan Edibles. I've had some articles written. I try to engage in podcasts to like further get the message out there around just education in general. Eventually, I would love to start teaching how to infuse your own foods, how to infuse your own cakes, things like that. So,
yeah. Do you ever think you'll move away from Cream Cakery and just be Natasha, the infused side, or would you keep both, do you think?
Well, currently right now, I only work under Natty Cake Artisan Edibles, and I do not infuse under that brand as well.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I feel like my edible customers are both sides of my customers are worried, like, oh, if I order a cake from her, will it be infused or will it not be infused? So yeah, I try to be really very clear about safety around dosing and things like that. You can trust me, but I do operate under that. And I do feel like my infused edible side has honestly taken off. That side of my business is far surpassed just doing cakes.
Yeah. So what are some of the, this is my question, something that I'm really interested, because I've never smoked a spliff. I've seen it. I'm Jamaican. I know I've never, believe me, I've never touched that thing. And I fall into the group that of weed smoking and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So what unique benefits do you believe cannabis infused edibles offer compared to other methods of cannabis consumption? Smoking a weed versus smoking a spliff versus the edible itself.
So the actual flower, it's flower, what you smoke is the flower of the plant. So I personally love to smoke flower. It is a different intake process in your body. So usually when people ingest edibles, it's more for a body response. So you will get the body effects from, like, I personally use hybrid flowers in my treats. A hybrid has sativa and indica components in it. Usually levels of CBD in there, but I'm not pulling for that. I'm usually pulling for the THC.
Okay.
And the indica is going to help you relax. Depending on the strain, I could choose strains that offer more help with anxiety relief, more help with body pain, things like that. I was recently diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. So as a baker, I'm like, oh my gosh, how long am I going to be able to do this? So currently I'm like really researching strains that will help with inflammation, help with pain management, things like that. So yeah. I love being a scientist.
I know.
Being a baker is a little bit like being a scientist. So
yeah, it's absolute chemistry. And you know what? I love listening to you, talking about, how you're doing your research to make sure that this is just right. And I can hear from you that you are really intentional about ensuring that your THC level is right for every moment and every dessert, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting from you.
Dosing is so very important because you never want to overdose someone. That can trigger anxiety in them, but you also don't want to underdose someone that really needs the medicine. So there is like a really careful balance of knowing and having respect for the plant first and foremost. And just knowing that, just trusting. I feel like intuitively I work off of my ancestors whispering to me as well. Because as I found out later, my parents and my aunts told me, your grandparents used to do this in Trinidad for flavors. Not with cannabis, but with different herbs, nuts. They'd make remedies for people. And I'm like, I have it in me. So,
You're living your legacy. So we're talking about like your grandparents' legacy. Let's talk about your legacy in terms of being one of the figurehead African-American or Black women in this space. What are some of the things that you think that needs to still be done to ensure that the space is diverse and inclusive in terms of having more women in this space? What would you do differently?
Well, I think Minnesota is doing a great job currently in trying to create a socially equitable landscape for cannabis. When it was legalized, they first said, we will have a social equity lottery for licensing. And that would include Black and Brown, Indigenous, people with marijuana charges and felonies, things like that. Those would be the first two allowed to apply for cannabis licensing, which I love that. I applauded them for that, for at least trying to create an equitable environment. If you follow legalization throughout the nation, you will see that although those preliminary things are put into place in a lot of states, it goes into a shit show shortly after. Other people from different states move in to do business, you know. So as of right now, I feel good about Minnesota's legalization. In 2 years, I might feel different. Yeah. But as I'm going through the licensing process currently, I would say like all of that is kind of scary. It's kind of scary, honestly. I would say it's a little bit more intense than any kind of other regular licensing or business kind of venture. So I don't know where I personally will be in the grand scheme of licensing. I do know that I will continue to do what I do as a healer, as a baker, and hopefully I can maintain kind of like a stance in or hold my place in it so that I can continue to push my agenda of education and women's rights around marijuana, I should say. It's definitely heavily dominated by males. So
yeah. You know, when I see your work, I see your artistry, because having not read your background, until I read your background, I realized, okay, that's her artsy side shining. Your edibles are just amazing. And for me, if I walked in a space and I see them, just the presentation alone will call me to take one and eat. You know, they really are amazing. And I see where you experiment with different forms, you know? I'm like, oh my God, is that an edible? What's next though? What are you working on? What can we look forward to seeing pop out? What's next for you? What's the next big thing that's coming for you? Talk to us.
So I'm actually me and my husband will be launching a second business alongside mine that will be curated flower. So all the flower that I use in my baked products, a lot of people are like, I want the actual flower. Okay. To smoke, ingest, whatever. So we will be opening up a kind of like a boutique store where you can get like curated flowers that I use. My flower that I use is always premium, medical grade. So that's one side. But I don't know. I kind of want to go to London and like do like a crazy art decoration class and like come back and just like make amazingly infused cakes. Like, because I made like this huge cake once that had like 1,200 milligrams in it. But I really want to like travel the world and see what they're doing with cannabis. Yeah. In Thailand, and definitely I have a strong calling to Europe. To the cakers over there are just mind-blowing to me. So just, and also like, I want to dance in that line. I forever want to dance in that line of cakes and marijuana. It feels so like natural to me. So yeah. Well, I know many of us look forward to seeing your post. I'm really excited when I see your edibles. I love seeing your work. It's very meticulous. They're neat, they're clean, and it's key in this space. And you've got it. You definitely have gotten that gift. And I admire your bravery. Thank you. To step out into a space that is often so stigmatized, but you step into it. And you step into it with such grace. You lean into the stigma. You do everything to empower women and girls within the space.
But before I have you jump off, because it sounds like I'm wrapping up here, what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs, especially those looking to enter your niche market of infused products?
Ooh, I would say be driven by your heart, because this isn't a space for anyone that is trying to make $1 million overnight. It's not a space for someone that, especially, I want to speak especially to the cannabis industry. I feel like the most successful edible makers and producers, growers, farmers, is because of what's in them, because of that, the heart and the passion, the love for the plant itself, and what it does for other people. So I always tell, even no matter the industry, I say, take time to listen to what's inside of you. Go back to your early days of childhood and think about the times, what lit you up? What were you good at, you know? And if you find that the same talents are present in your life now, why not lean into them? Even if it's just for 3 months. Yeah. Those 3 months might turn into 3 years. That's what happened to me. I was only taking a break from corporate America. I didn't plan 5 years, actually it's 6 years now. 6 years now I've been an entrepreneur. I said I was taking 6 months off. It turned into 6 years. So believe in yourself, in your personal magic. Pray about it. Ask your guides about it. And I know that sounds all foo-foo, but truly, I feel like that's the only way to succeed, is like by following what's inside of you. Trust. You're going to have to ride out the hard times. Like you said, the ebbs and flows of finances. You have to have a strong something in place so that if it goes left, you're going to be okay as well.
Yep. She said that you're actually going to be okay if it goes left. She's also encouraging you to lean into your own purpose, lean into your dream, lean into that thing that you loved and you were attached to as a child. Tell our listeners, Natasha, where they can find you.
Currently, my website is being built. I am, like you said, I'm very meticulous in perfection, so that's taking some time. But for right now, most of my audience finds me on Instagram. And you could find me at Natty Kakes, and that's NattyKakes for now.
Yeah, you definitely can't miss Natty Kakes. I be impressed by her edibles. I'm profoundly happy to have spoken with you, Natasha. It's a long time coming. I've enjoyed this conversation with you, and I know that our listeners will too. I can say from a personal perspective, I admire you. I'm very proud of you. I'm proud of the work that you do. I'm proud that you're holding your own in this niche market. It everything is all Black girl magic, and as an island girl, from one island girl to the next, excited about that. So thank you so much for joining us. This has been your slice of joy and healing. This has been the Cake Therapy Podcast. If you haven't yet, like, subscribe, and follow us. And guess what? Check out our website. It's thecaketherapyfoundation.org. Buy us a coffee. Every time you buy us a coffee, it goes towards the girl. I don't drink coffee, but if you buy us a coffee, all of that money goes to supporting the girls in our community. So thank you so much. Thank you, Natasha, for joining us.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Take care.
Of course.
Thank you for tuning in to the Cake Therapy Podcast. Your support means the world to us. Let us know what you thought about today's episode in the comment section. Remember to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And if you found the conversation helpful, please share it with a friend. Also, follow Sugar Spoon Desserts on all social media platforms. We invite you to support Cake Therapy and the work we do with our foundation by clicking on the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description, or by visiting the Cake Therapy website and making a donation. All your support will go towards the Cake Therapy Foundation and the work we are doing to help women and girls. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode.